Right now on 10 News at 11.
Heavy rain is flooding roads all over the county. Residents are unable to return to their homes.
I know of at least two people who I don't know the people, but at least two folks that I know of have died.
The deadly road where drivers are hesitant to cross in the rain.
Another local jewelry store robbed by masked men, possibly connected to a dangerous crime spree that hasn't been stopped.
Parents in the North County demanding a new superintendent be forced out. And now they're demanding private investigators look into her district dealings.
Live from the Scripps Studios, this is 10 News.
A tree engulfed in flames after being hit by lightning. The power knocked out for more than 1,000 people in the middle of the storm.
And rushing water flooding multiple creeks, preventing people from getting home. Some drivers are ignoring those warnings, pushing through the dangerous current. We have team coverage of this storm and the damage it's caused all across the county. Our 10 News reporter Laura Acevedo is live in San Marcos, where some drivers got stuck in that rising water. Laura.
And Steve, this is just one of the closures here in the North County. Some of the creeks, like the one behind me, flooding over, causing a headache for drivers that chose to ignore the signs. The signs were up, warning drivers of the road closure on Country Club Drive in Escondido. But that didn't stop some drivers from moving the signs and driving through the rushing current, spilling over into the road.
You know, it's not something you want to screw with, and we don't.
Most drivers deciding to wait it out.
And then look at it moving like that, it's a tremendous force to be reckoned with.
People who live up the road say the Escondido Creek floods multiple times a year. To their memory, the rushing waters have claimed 2 lives in the last 30 years.
Oh yeah, it's very risky. I mean, some of the big sized trucks I don't worry about too much. I worry about anybody that's in a smaller vehicle that tries to race across and they stall out.
Over in San Marcos, a similar scenario along South Bent Road. Drivers ignoring the closure. This car left behind after getting stuck. Just feet away, another abandoned car pulled from the water. Now, some of this water has receded since the rain stopped moments ago. Again, it sounds obvious, but if you see a road closed sign, you should not be driving through it because it is difficult to tell just how deep that water is. And you can see the example behind me. Your car could stall. Reporting live in San Marcos, Laura Acevedo, 10 News.
Laura, thank you. A lightning strike in Ramona ignited a tree in the middle of a neighborhood. It sent embers flying and knocked out power to more than 1,000 people. Our 10 News anchor Lindsay Pena continues our team coverage. And Lindsay, this could have been a major issue if not for the rain.
Yeah, it really could. Steve, this is that tree that went up in flames. It's a pretty tall palm tree, and once it got going, those embers were flying. That lightning strike was what set all of this off. The neighbors just happy that it didn't spread.
Man. Wow, that thing's fully engulfed.
It only took seconds for this tree to go up in flames. Witnesses telling us the fire was sparked by a bolt of lightning that had hit a nearby tree and sent sparks flying. Daniel Partee and his family saw it all from their front yard.
I saw the flash, and then instantaneously I heard the crack, and it shook the house.
Partee called 911 and says fire crews arrived quickly, but still had their work cut out for them.
I was thinking the rain was going to put it out, but once it got up to the prongs, because it was a little bit overgrown, once it got to that, it took off.
The fire left the surrounding residents, about 1,200 people, without power for about 2 hours. And although the tree that was hit by lightning did fall onto a car and the nearby home, it didn't catch on fire.
There was a lot of embers coming off that thing. You could see it blowing over to the neighbor's yard and all that. And but the saturated ground, it didn't get away from them.
You're looking at those charred remains of that tree on the ground, and the tree that was hit by lightning right there in the background still fallen right now on top of that car and that house. The people living here, though, safe tonight and the power back on. It has since cleared up here in Ramona. No more rain right now. We are reporting live in Ramona. Lindsay Pena, 10 News.
Everyone's safe. That's the good news. Thank you, Lindsay. And the Ramona power outage was one of a handful of communities faced with no power. Right now, there are more than 6,000 SDG&E customers in the dark. The largest outage is near Ocean Beach.
All right, our meteorologist Angelica Campos continues our team coverage. She is tracking the storm's path and the next round of rain. It's going to be a big one.
That's right. We've had tropical moisture in place. Ramona actually by 4 o'clock this afternoon only had about half an inch of rain. But over the last couple of hours, they picked up more than an inch of rain and a quarter. A flash flood watch remains in effect. We're going to see more rainfall and heavy at times as we go into tomorrow. As we zoom out, you can see some of those thunderstorms now tracking off to the east. But this is just the first batch of precipitation. We're going to see more rain developing across the county as we go into the day tomorrow. We'll be getting closer to the center of low pressure, and that will trigger showers, periods of thunderstorms. It will be heavy at times, so flash flooding will be a concern. That's why that flash flood watch will be in effect until 1 a.m. on Thursday.
Angelica, thank you. You can follow all of our rain and the weather updates on the 10 News mobile app. There is a free version available in the App Store. Just search 10 News.
And breaking news now. Police are on the hunt for the masked men who raided the Jared's Jewelers in National City at gunpoint. Photojournalist Paul Anderegg is live in our 10 News breaking news tracker. Paul, police just gave you more information.
Yes, and police just finished up their investigation here at the Westfield Plaza Bonita. This is what it looks like now. Pretty cold scene. I'll show you what it looked like a few hours ago. This happened shortly before 8 p.m. when at least 4 suspects wearing masks and hoodies made their way into that Jared's. They forced everyone down at gunpoint. At least one gun was used, believed to be a handgun. They then began smashing the displays and taking the product, the jewelry, whatever they had in there that they can get, and then they made their way outside and took off in a vehicle. Fortunately, no one was injured inside during this robbery. Those suspects are still outstanding. Police could not tell us that these are related to any other earlier incidents, but of course they will be continuing to investigate that possibility. Back to you.
All right, Paul, thank you. Tonight's crime has a very similar MO to a rash of armed jewelry store robberies around the county. In December, the Jared Jewelers in Mission Valley was hit. Then in January, another Jared's was robbed in Carmel Mountain Ranch. In February, 3 masked men held the Burt Levi family jewelers in Hillcrest at gunpoint. And then in March, 3 armed men robbed the Alpha and Omega jewelers in National City.
Even with a restraining order, a Paradise Hills mother endured months of harassment before her estranged husband killed her and her 3 children. One of those threats even included a picture of a gun. So we wanted to know what is being done to make sure victims of domestic violence have a way out. 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala took that question to District Attorney Summer Steffen, and she says the first 72 hours after filing a restraining order are the most critical.
Yeah, it was a horrible tragedy, and we are all grieving over it.
As San Diegans try to come to grips with the violence that unfolded inside a Paradise Hills home, leaving a mother and 3 of her young boys dead, District Attorney Summer Steffen tells us it's a problem in which San Diego is becoming too familiar.
Domestic violence remains the #1 killer of women in the United States and right here in San Diego.
Steffen revealing the startling statistics that the county saw 18 murders just last year related to domestic violence. And a third of those murders involved people who had active restraining orders.
We want victims to know that a restraining order is a piece of paper and that it alone is not going to protect the victim.
She says the first 72 hours after filing a restraining order are the most vulnerable for retaliation, and the victims need to have a plan in place.
Going to an unknown location for a few days.
Across the county, there are a number of resources available to help put a plan together.
There is a family justice center run by the city attorney Mara Elliott. There's a Center for Community Solutions with 24-hour number.
San Diego police tell me in some cases a victim can also request an emergency protective order, which is a temporary restraining order put into place immediately when there is a credible threat of violence.
As your district attorney, I would say my #1 message is get out of violent situations, but do it with the help of resources and professionals before you get the restraining order.
Mimi Alcala, 10 News.
The emergency protective order is a tool available to law enforcement officers. Both the victim and the offender have to be in the same location when the order is served.
The impeachment investigation hearing saw 4 key witnesses publicly testify on Capitol Hill today. The 5-hour hearing started with testimony from Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, a decorated veteran and top Ukraine expert on the National Security Council. He and Jennifer Williams, who's an aide to Vice President Mike Pence, both testified they found Mr. Trump's phone call with Ukraine's president concerning.
It involved discussion of what appeared to be a domestic political matter.
It is improper for the President of the United States to demand a foreign government investigate a U.S. citizen and a political opponent.
Vindman testified he reported his concerns twice. His former boss, Tim Morrison, told Congress he did not believe there was anything wrong with the Ukrainian phone call. Tomorrow, EU Ambassador Gordon Sondland will face lawmakers.
Tomorrow's public testimony includes a former top donor to the president's inaugural committee and a deputy assistant secretary at the Defense Department. That begins at 6 a.m. You can also watch 10 News this morning at 6 a.m. on streaming devices and the 10 News mobile app.